Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Namaskar. Bonjour, hola, bon dia, guten Abend. Welcome to today's session. I shared with the online audience some of my recollections of revered Swami Bhuteshanandaji Maharaj in Bengali. After that, some of my friends advised me to share the same reminiscences in English language also. Revered Maharaj, Swami Bhuteshanandaji, was the 12th president of the Ramakrishna Math and Ramakrishna Mission. Let me say something upfront. You know that when encountering memories, when trying to recounting memories, the speaker or writer's own story often comes into play. It is not entirely avoidable. However, I will certainly try to ensure that the person whose memories I am sharing with you does not get overshadowed. I came to revered Maharaj in 1975. At that time, he was at Kankurgachi Yogodhyan Math. He was serving as one of the vice presidents of the Ramakrishna Math and Mission. He was also president of the Kankurgachi Yogodhyan Math. I joined that center as a novice monk. I was with him for nearly 6 years. Later, when he became the president of the order and lived in Bellumat, I was at that time working at our headquarters in Bellumat. Then I had the privilege to spend time with him for another 8 to 8.5 years. Revered Maharaj was a man of sharp intellect, yet at the same time extremely humble and modest. His simple lifestyle was an exemplary lesson for everyone. From the outside, one could not tell that he was such a learned scholar of scriptures, a towering personality, or a spiritually enlightened soul. He never sought to pose himself as higher than others. In our own limited thinking, we sometimes feel that by criticizing others or diminishing others, we elevate ourselves. But that is not true. Rabindranath Tagore wrote, Nijere korite gauravodan, nijere kebali kori apaman. In glorifying myself, I only go on humiliating myself. Revered Maharaj, while living among common people, spread the ideals of God through his actions. One of our fellow brahmacharis once said, when speaking with Maharaj, it felt like he was our friend. I never felt any distance. That was true in a way. However, there was indeed a distance, and it was so vast that we as novices could not grasp it. As time went on, his close presence made it more and more clear just how exalted he was spiritually. And today, many years later, it feels as though he was and is more and more beyond our reach. From the very beginning of my time at the ashram as a novice, I was assigned to help him with his office works, as a personal assistant would do, like writing letters, organizing initiation, and other tasks. So, at a very young age, I had the privilege of seeing him up close. I witnessed the mindset and daily conduct of this great soul, his unwavering calmness in the face of challenges, his thoughts, and his inner attitude. I saw that what he appeared to be to others outside was the same as what he was within. I was fortunate that I never had to witness any human flaws in him. Even if I sometimes disagreed on certain matters, I would follow his word without any argument and with joy, not reluctance. Let me share an example to illustrate his humility, though it may be hard to fully grasp its meaning and depth. Once he was going to reprimand one of our monks. I called that Swamiji to Revere Maharaj's room. But I could hear everything from the next room. Revered Maharaj was scolding him, saying, I am a trustee of Belmont, the vice president. I am as old as your father, no, your grandfather, and yet you do not listen to me. Those of us who overheard this couldn't but burst into laughter at the way he was scolding. I don't know if if it is appropriate to share this, but still I will say it. After that intense philosophical scolding, I saw the said Swamiji come out of Revered Maharaj's room, raising his hands like Gauranga and dancing away. Of course, no, Revered Maharaj didn't see that. Once I placed Revered Maharaj's response letter in a self-addressed envelope, sealed it, and left it on the desk. Revered Maharaj noticed it and read the address. He looked at me and asked, why didn't you write Shri before his name? Shri is like Mr. in English. I responded, well, himself did not write Shri. He sent it to you like this. Revered Maharaj, becoming serious, said, I understand that. But now it is being sent from us. I was startled. Just look at his sense of courtesy. There's no need to explain further how significant this small incident was. Much later, when I reflected on it, I felt deeply troubled, thinking about when my own mind might reach such a high level. Look at how the vision of seeing Brahman in all beings can manifest in our every thought and action. This is just one small example of how a Brahmavid or knower of Brahman behaves in this world. The Gita says, Sarva dvareshu dehesmin prakasham abhi upajayate. In and through all the pores of the body, the shining glory of Brahman manifest. Once a devotee came to visit Revered Maharaj. We knew that that gentleman had a peculiar, somewhat unusual way of speaking. One of our fellow brahmacharis, let's call him Shankar, not his real name though, didn't know the man's actual name because peculiar word had almost become synonymous with his name. What a shame for us. Anyway, Shankar went to Revered Maharaj and said that a gentleman had come to see him. Revered Maharaj asked, what's his name? Shankar could not recall. So he replied, oh, the peculiar gentleman, the one who speaks a bit strangely. That's it. Revered Maharaj was clearly displeased with Shankar's words and sharply replied, and you think you are normal? Now you can imagine poor Shankar's predicament. Now let's hear it from Shankar himself. He said, I felt as if I had shrunk in shame and embarrassment. I beckoned the fortunate gentleman to go inside and sat down on the bench outside where that gentleman had been sitting. Think about poor Shankar. It feels like this could be the story of any of us. In such moments, we unknowingly lose our self-respect. Or to put it more accurately, we lose ourselves. And without the help of the great souls like revered Maharaj, how would we ever find our way back? Through their grace, we learn to value life anew, in a new way. We get a glimpse of the minute details of an inner transformation that is not fictional, but real. These teachings are life-changing. Now I feel grateful for Shankar's fortune. Then the unexpected happened. After the gentleman left, Revered Maharaj called Shankar inside. No, not to scold him further, but to reassure him. He gently patted Shankar on the back and said, "Don't feel bad." Thakur said, "As long as we live, so long do we learn." Well, let's leave it at that for now. It's similar to what happens at your Bhilai steel plant. Just like iron ore is transformed into stainless steel by the intense heat of fire, life works the same way. You must keep the flame of the hope for liberation burning within. Then all the opposing circumstances, raw behaviors of others, opinions of others, and ideologies of the world will be transformed by that fire into love, respect, and understanding others in their own context as they are, like that. Uh, Revered Maharaj had deeply studied Vedanta and other scriptures. I have never seen anyone simplify complex scriptural issues like he could. During Maharaj's time, Swami Tapasyanandaji was also one of the vice presidents of the Ramakrishna Morton Mission, and he too was a great scholar. Once a young man told him, "Maharaj, you are a scholar." Swami Tapasyanandaji interrupted, saying, "Oh no, I am just a translator. Swami Ranganathananda is a distinguished speaker. If you want to see a real true scholar, go to Swami Bhuteshananda Maharaj." Almost every day, Revered Maharaj would either read scriptures himself or have them read aloud to him, explaining their meaning to students and devotees. His discussions were always simple and inspiring. One example of his profound respect for scriptures is this. Once a distinguished person came to Revered Maharaj to discuss some interpersonal problems. And I guess that he might have criticized others in the conversation. Almost every day afternoon, I would go to Revered Maharaj to read the scriptures with him. That day, I didn't know that he would be occupied at our scheduled reading time. So I went to his residence as usual, but waited in another room. Their meeting lasted almost the whole of our reading time. After the conversation had ended, I finally went to Revered Maharaj's room without any books. Revered Maharaj looked at me seriously and asked me to bring the book. I read for just about 10 minutes. He also wanted that much, I guess. Revered Maharaj listened attentively. After I finished, he opened his eyes. As I was packing up the books, he looked at me and said, "You see, my ears have been purified." Kan duto shuddho holo, in Bengali, he said. There's an antidote to every impurity. The Yoga Sutra says, vitarka badhane pratipaksha bhavana. That means cultivate the opposite thoughts to counteract negative ones. For hatred, like for example, the antidote is love or compassion. There is an antidote for everything. And the ultimate antidote to all impurities is the scriptures which speak of God, which contains the name of God. Revered Maharaj's patience was extraordinary. He never considered any problem too big and faced everything with immense tolerance. I have seen it many times. He would sit and talk to devotees, most of whom were his initiated disciples. Among them, someone who is naive and rude might say something offensive to him. Yet, revered Maharaj would continue speaking normally, very normally, without showing any sign of offense or even disturbance or displeasure. He never disrespected anyone, not even those rude people. Anyway, many times after the person left, the devotees would complain to revered Maharaj, saying, Maharaj, you didn't say anything to that mad fellow. So we could not scold him either. I think I heard him reply, at least twice I heard the same thing. So Maharaj said, just because he is mad, does that mean we should behave madly as well? Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi said, do not find fault with others. Why? Because she explained, unless you lower your own mind to that level, you cannot see faults with others. Unless you bring your mind down to that level, you cannot see the faults of others. What an antidote and what an insight. Once, when a devotee mentioned Revered Maharaj's physical discomfort, he smiled softly and said, both pain and pleasure are temporary. If you get caught up in them, you move farther from the truth. Obviously, Revered Maharaj's life is filled with uncountable incidents involving our monks. Many people have already written about their memories of Revered Maharaj, and I have witnessed several such events up close. For example, sometimes a monk, very troubled, would come from an ashram to see Revered Maharaj. I don't know what was discussed between them, but I would always see those monks leave the room with peaceful faces. Once Swami Bhuteshanandaji Maharaj, one of our current vice presidents of the Ramakrishna order, told me, Revered Bhuteshanandaji Maharaj had the calmness of the Pacific Ocean within him. Prasanta Mahasagorer Prasanti, he said. All restlessness would be calmed in his presence. And Bhajananandji also said, it's like when many of us are sitting in a room and then Revered Maharaj would walk in, then you feel the entire room just filled up with peace. However, after hearing all this, no one should think that he was a dry, emotionless man. You have read many stories about his sense of humor. I will give just a small example. Once Revered Maharaj gave a speech at the Baranagar Ashrama on a special occasion. Revered Swami Gambhiranandaji Maharaj was his contemporary and he was the 11th president of our order. You know, Revered Gambhiranandaji was a prolific writer, but he was reluctant to give public lectures. Revered Gambhiranandaji asked Bhuteshanandaji Maharaj, I heard that you presided over a public meeting the other day at our Baranagar ashram. How long did you speak? Revered Maharaj replied, about an hour, I guess. Wow, that's a long time, Gambhiranandaji said. Then he said, how do you manage to speak so long? Then Revered Bhuteshanandaji answered, do you know what is the secret of a speech? It is speaking without stopping. না থেমে বলে যাওয়া, that is what is called speech. Look at the type of humor they used to have. So innocent and at the same time so amusing. He was a symbol of selfless service to humanity. To him, service was true worship of God. He would say, serve humanity, and in doing so, you will serve God. That is the message of Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda. In the early days of his ascetic life, he once went to Medinipur for relief work. There are so many such events. There are one just I am recalling here. He would proudly say that he had to carry bags of rice weighing 60 kgs on his back. A boat filled with rice bags anchored on one side of an embankment of a river. They carried the bags on their backs to load the transporter on the other side of the dam. I many times I traveled with him to assist in initiation ceremonies. I had reservations about taking him to certain places because those places were very remote. It took us 3 to 4 hours by car, and it was exhausting for us, the young people. But I was a very young novice, so I needed the support of the elders. So together we went inside his room, and when the matter was conveyed to him, I believe he understood that I was behind it. We waited for his opinion. What he said left us speechless, and we bowed our heads in silence as we left his room. Revere Maharaj said, "Look, the people there cannot come this far. You never know when someone will have to leave this world. I don't mind traveling 3 hours by car to get there. Don't worry. Don't worry so much about it." You see, we remember in the Tulsi Ramayana, Tulsidas is having a conversation with the Lord in Vaikuntha. The Lord says, "Tulsi, I am lowering the ladder for you to climb up and come and have darshan of me. See me here." Tulsi said, "My beloved Lord, that is so kind of you to suggest such a help. But I am also worried about all others who are with me on the earth. How will they see you and get your blessings?" The Lord said, "Let they also come after you, one by one, climbing the stairs." Tulsi caught the Lord off guard. "My God, you are the creator of the whole universe. I thought you would be a great mathematician. And this is your conclusion. Do you see the difference? How long will it take for all of us on the earth to climb the stairs and come to you one by one? And how long will it take for you, just one person, to climb down and be among us?" Yes, one is called self-effort and another the grace. Do you see the difference? That is called grace. As I have said, yes, grace means when God comes down to save us as an avatar or in any form, that is called grace. As I have said, we lived in Yogodhan Mott in Kankurkachi, Kolkata. The neighborhood is known as Kadapada. That means an area which is full of muddy places. Some urchins of the neighborhood would scale the walls and take away fruits, coconuts, etc. That is a regular nuisance. So some of our Swamis planned to distribute some clothes, garments among the residents there. The idea was to make the children in the neighborhood grateful so that they do not disturb the ashrama in the future. So these Swamis approached Revere Maharaj. Revere Maharaj heard their argument. Then he said, "It is a good idea to help the local people this way. I support serving people who are in need. But do not do it just by way of a trick or policy with an ulterior motive. Do it if you can, take it and if you can take it as an ideal, not as a policy to get rid of disturbances. It should be embraced as an ideal, not just as a strategy." Revere Maharaj was a man deeply devoted to meditation. He meditated regularly, and that was very much reflected in every aspect of his life. I know that he did not need to meditate, we know, for his own purpose, but for his disciples and devotees he used to meditate. Many people felt that and said just being around revered Maharaj makes us feel as if we are in the presence of some higher power. The effect of his meditation was so profound that those who came close to him would feel a strong sense of transmittable peace. I mentioned this earlier. He had unwavering faith and devotion to Sri Sri Thakur. He guided his disciples along the same path of devotion. Once a devotee asked him, Maharaj, how can one experience God? He replied, when you forget yourself, that's when you can feel God. Just remember Him and leave everything in His hands. Didn't we hear it in the Gita? Yes. Sri Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam braja. Leave all duties and surrender to me alone. Revered Maharaj truly depended on God, even more than 100%, I can say. I had discovered this hidden truth. So whenever I saw that Pujya Maharaj was worried about someone's suffering, was concerned about some individual or a problem within the organization, I would use a few key phrases as powerful tools to divert his attention. Of course, I always sought forgiveness from Sri Sri Thakur afterwards for my daring audacity. It wouldn't take much. Just saying a few small things would do the trick. For instance, I would say, Maharaj, everything will be fine by Thakur's will. Or Thakur will ensure everything turns out for the best. Or suppose, would Thakur ever want harm to come to the organization? I do not hesitate to admit it now, or rather I feel no shame to disclose the secret behind my colossal audacity. That back then, those sentences were just words to me. শুধু কথার কথা মাত্র. So those words did not have any impact on me, but his reaction was always just normal. He would feel completely reassured and would sometimes say, you are right, then turn over and fall into a peaceful sleep. Now imagine my situation. I was so insignificant in front of him. Yet I took such a serious matter for granted. But the fact is that I knew I had come to him at the beginning of my spiritual life. So I believed that he would forgive my daring. And after all, Sri Sri Thakur, Srimat, Thakurani were always there. Could they ever abandon me? Now, as a grown-up in spiritual life and after spending a monastic life for about 5 decades, I often wonder how someone could be so deeply reliant on God. Now, these memories give me strength and assurance, as if He is there walking side by side as a personification of such assurances. Yes, it is possible to surrender fully to God, to Sri Sri Thakur and Sri Sri Maha, so fully. Why not try ourselves? Godspeed. Namaskar. Thank you. I stop here today and we will take up the same subject afterwards sometime when I gather. I organize the reminiscences once more. But thank you very much for inspiring me to almost translate the whole talk into English, and hope it would help many people. And please pray to God for us as we pray for you always. Stay safe, take care of yourself, stay healthy. Good night, namaskar. Jai Shri Ramakrishna.